So I took quite a bit of time thinking about how I wanted to cover this debate. Should I talk about Joe Biden's poor performance and how he looked slow, old, and confused at times? Should I talk about the fire hose of misinformation and disinformation that spewed from Trump's mouth? Or should I talk about some of the Democratic Party being in panic mode and calling for Joe Biden to step aside? But when I take a step back and I really try to evaluate what's important about these debates, although I do not think Joe Biden had an optics win, I do believe he prevailed on the substance grounds. Because Joe Biden was at least able to articulate what a second Biden term would look like and his vision for America, while Trump, on the other hand, spent his time lying, spinning up new falsities, making fun of Joe Biden, kind of acting like a bully, was not able to clearly define what a second Trump term would look like. But let's go ahead and kick things off. If I had to put a vibe check on the whole debate and what I think most people are talking about, Joe Biden looked old and confused, and Trump kind of looked like a bully. So if I had to sum up the debate in one clip, this might be what it would look like.
Happened. I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
So obviously, Joe Biden does not look great here. I think he performed better in some parts of the debate versus others. But I think the key takeaway that too many people are talking about is how old and doddering he may have looked. Nobody's really talking about the substance of what was actually being said. I'm not downplaying that Joe Biden didn't look great. But when I compare him to Trump on the substance, it's just not even close. For instance, Jake Tapper asked Trump directly about his 10% tariff proposal. Let's see what Donald Trump had to say about that.
To follow up, you want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China, it's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs.
So when Trump is clearly asked about one of his own policy proposals, he gives a non-answer. It is pretty pathetic that Trump has been our president, wants to be our president again, and still does not understand how tariffs work. And this is one of his own policy proposals. And then Jake Tapper asks him about his plan for mass deportations. Let's go ahead and see what Trump had to say about this policy proposal.
You've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying, and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people.
So again, Trump he cannot form a clear answer as to one of his own policy proposals. I don't think he knows what that looks like, and even if he does know what a mass deportation would look like, I don't think he would want to answer this question because it would be catastrophic. But this is one of his own policy proposals. He should have a very clear understanding of how he wants to implement it. And he was unable to do that. So that's just one of two policies that Trump is proposing for a second term, and he was not able to provide clear answers. I think that's a problem. And when we move forward to other things like January 6th, he's unable to answer directly there either. Let's see the first time he was asked about it.
After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people.
So this is Trump using a whole bunch of non sequiturs, non-answers. He's not giving a clear answer to questions about his oath of office and January 6th. So Donald Trump is again asked about this, and let's see what he has to say again.
My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C.
So here, Trump is trying to pass the blame of January 6th and its response onto other people like Nancy Pelosi. He's not taking accountability for his involvement in January 6th. Why? Why is he unable to promise Americans that he will fulfill his oath of office if he were to become president again? This should be an easy question, easy answer. And then he continues to spin lies about the January 6th rioters. Let's take a look at that.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that.
Trump is just straight up lying here. The January 6th committee did not delete all their records. In fact, you can go search those records right now online. They also did not come to the conclusion that Donald Trump and his team was right on January 6th. That is another bald-faced lie. But this is just Trump not being able to stay on topic. He is unable to assure Americans that something like January 6th won't happen again. And when it comes to accepting the election results, Dana Bash asks him about that as well. Let's see what he has to say.
Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and You will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine.
Trump is unable to answer this question. This should be an easy answer. Yes, I will accept the results of the upcoming election. But he is unable to do that. He is unable to squash Americans' fears about him trying to pull another January 6th. He should be able to clearly articulate that, yes, I will accept the results of the election. But he can't. So Dana Bash asks him again about this. Let's see what he has to say.
The question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing.
What is he even talking about? Again, he is not answering the question. Instead, it's this weird non-answer about taking land from other presidents. What does this even mean? So Dana asks him again about this. Let's see what he has to say.
President Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week.
So this is Trump laying the groundwork to not accept the results in 2024. He's not able to clearly answer the question like any other presidential candidate would be able to. Instead, he wants to give himself an out for not accepting the results in 2024. This is a signature Trump move. Months and months before the 2020 election, he was doing this very same thing. This is unacceptable from a presidential candidate. He should be able to say, without a doubt, he will accept the results of the election. Because we have been provided no proof that there's been widespread voter fraud or anything like that. So this should not be a hard question to answer. So those were just some of the major points that I thought needed to be gone through here. I think, Americans are concerned about January 6th. I think they are concerned about him accepting the election results. And I don't think he did a good job of answering these questions. He was not able to articulate what a second Trump term would look like. He didn't talk about any policies, even when asked explicitly about his own policy proposals. He does not have a clear vision for America. Joe Biden, on the other hand, does. And if you want me to do a video about that, I'd be more than happy to lay out the vision that we heard in this debate from Joe Biden. But I wanted to move on as well. After this debate, both candidates went and held rallies, and we heard nothing but gloating, no self-reflection, no accountability from Trump, and we heard something much different from Joe Biden. So let's go ahead and take a look at that really quick.
As you saw on television last night, we had a big victory against a man that really is looking to destroy our country. He's the worst. He's the most corrupt, the most incompetent president in the history of our country. And we have to take it back from that party. That's an evil party, despite the fact that crooked Joe Biden spent the entire week at Camp David resting, working, studying. He studied very hard. He studied so hard that he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
He got the debate rules that he wanted. He got the date that he wanted. He got the network that he wanted. With the moderates he wanted. No amount of rest or rigging could help.
So this is just Trump picking on Biden a little bit more. He's not taking accountability for his poor performance. There's no self-reflection here. Republicans are not holding him accountable for all of the lies he told during the debate. I think that's pretty pathetic. On the other hand, you have Joe Biden, who showed some humility and kind of owned up to his bad performance. So let's go ahead and take a look at that really quick.
Folks, I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
This was a really great speech from Biden. If you haven't seen the whole thing, I highly recommend you go and see it. I very much wish it was this Biden that we saw at the debate. Unfortunately, those weren't the cards that were dealt. But here we have Biden taking accountability for his poor performance and saying, we're still going to fight this thing. We're going to get out there and do the work. I like that. That is more inspiring to me. I don't think the choice could be any more clear. And I think it's more important that we focus on the substance of the debates rather than the optics. The optics do matter. I'm not trying to say that it doesn't, but I think the substance is what we should care more about. We should be able to look at our presidential candidates and their vision for the future and make our choice based on those visions. Even though Biden had a poor performance, I still have more confidence that he will work to push America forward when I compare him to somebody like Donald Trump, who couldn't even promise that he would accept the results of the next election. So I don't think this is getting the coverage that it needs to. Liberal media is, they are talking so poorly about Biden. And for good reason. We can criticize his performance, but we should also be looking at the substance of what these two candidates were saying. That is what is most important here. So I will be happy to vote for Biden in November. But that's going to do it for me on this one, folks. If you got anything out of this video, if you could remember to smash that like button and hit subscribe, maybe share it with a friend or two, I'd very much appreciate that. If you think I got something wrong, or if you disagree with me about something, let's hash it out in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about Trump's inner circle of criminals, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. And I will see you guys on the next one.